It's super easy to go for dives. It's super easy to just run in and stun them. So make it simple. And once again, the PCS in general, a very early kill heavy region. So having these early skirmishes, especially specifically in the jungle as well, does help you going into a draft like this. So it's going to be interesting to see what they are picking up. But so far, all we know is that Misfortune first pick.
Yep, that's all we know for now. We'll get there in just a second. It is interesting to see that sort of clash of styles though, because PCS is incredibly bloodthirsty. PCS loves high kills, lots of action in the early game. I think they're the highest combined kill a minute region of any region attending Worlds. TCL not so much, Galatasaray especially not so much, much slower, like to wait out the game towards those team fights and then play those well. And I'm wondering if Galatasaray will be able to inhibit Beyond from having that strong early game that they're so well known for in their region.
Well, you definitely have some teamfight aspect already with the Misfortune bullet time to come through already, and we have seen rather, some good trading patterns to come out from this champion as well against Illusion earlier today. So it's going to be interesting to see what response will be from the side of Beyond Gaming. It seems like they are prioritizing early AD carry rotations for themselves, and it is going to be the Ezreal champion we've already seen twice or three times already, if I don't remember too wrong. And then these early skirmishing junglers we already talked about, they are coming through from Husha now with the Sinsal being locked in.
Yeah, it's his most played across the course of summer. 10 games on it. Collectively, he won 7 of those. And of course, with PSG in your region, you're going to have slightly skewed win-loss ratio on some of these champs. Beyond actually played 12 games against PSG across the course of their summer. So not too surprising that you have lost some of those. There's Balulu's Rise. We've seen it before at international competition. One of his most comfortable picks, his ability to get out and around on the map, is so impactful.
Yeah, and then you have Mojito now going on to the Kiana, so the third time we finally get to see this champion. But Balulu and Rise, that is so pivotal as well from Galatasaray, because if you're not able to shut this man down, the priority that he is gaining in the mid lane is what they're playing off as well. It's the fact that he can move, it's the fact that he can play for the jungler, and having this ability is super pivotal. But obviously, there is ways to challenge this. I'm not going to talk about hovers until this is locked in, and that's the reason why, because that is not a Yone, that is Orianna to come through instead.
It's got hard baited by Maoan. Can't believe you do this to me, man. Hadn't played Yone at all, so I guess it's not too surprising that he didn't want to bring it out.
He did get some buffs going into this patch, obviously.
He definitely did, and we've all seen tracking the pros where Yones have been tearing up the rift. Orianna will be locked in though, works well of course with the Xin Zhao. You jump in, Crescent Guard if you want, and then you can use that Shockwave alongside it. Works incredibly well. Moving into the second phase, looks like supports are going to be banned out. I like the Leon ban. That long-range engage potential just stops Doggo from ever being in a position where he can really be caught out.
It's also taken away some comfort from Zergsting. It's also taken away what you match up so nicely with the Misfortune. You already took away the Amumu, now you take away the Leona, so there's no real CC change to come through immediately after as well. But there obviously is still a lot of supports that can do the same. You have the Nautilus as well if you want to lock someone down that can be removed, or else you could just start to prioritize the enemy top laner instead if you feel like that you want to have the support counter pick for your bot lane for Doggo, because as we already talked about, PK has been subbed in here instead, so he can go for a weak side tank instead, and therefore you can just get rid of the Jace and blind pick for yourself.
It is interesting that Beyond decided to sub in PK for this game. It might just be a holistic team composition thing, but Crazy has consistently been a guy you can catch out on the side of Galatasaray, and I would have looked to Liang as the guy to do that. Like, his laning phase is strong, he's a very well coordinated with Husha, whereas PK tends towards the more tank-orientated play.
Yeah, and if you don't know who Crazy is a Korean top laner, has played in the LCK for the likes of BBQ as well in the past, so obviously a laner with some experience, one of his first internationals though, so obviously there is the takeaway you can take away from that if you want to, but going to Beyond Gaming's fourth pick, it is going to be this Braum coming in, and I think it's a really valid pick into Misfortune. You can nullify this bullet time by just tanking it up with your shield all by yourself.
Galatasaray now need to find a support and a top laner to answer this Beyond composition. Top lane pick saved for Beyond, so they have counter pick up in that lane. And Galatasaray have a few different options. Bard for Zergsting. Okay, baby. Yes. Oh, man. Xerxing's Bard is something I have watched for a very long time, and I've been saddened every time I see that he doesn't make it to the world stage, because it is so good, it is so well known, it's one of his signature picks. I'm just, yeah, 100% win rate on it across the course of summer. I'm looking forward to this.
And this just screams bot lane priority as well, because now you have double ranged, enemies got Braum, can try and set up the stun, you can poke them out of the lane immediately in the early game, where you just get the priority to work around your jungler if that's what you want to do. So already expecting Xerxing to get that bot lane priority and move out on the map.
Currently with the cannon locked in for Crazy in the top lane, it looks like it's going to be a Gnar here for PK. He has been to Worlds before, was on GRX a couple of years ago, but instead it's Jarvan in the top lane. PK will be bringing the standard of Demacia up into that lane.
And this is interesting because we theorized that PK would bring in a tank instead, where you would play towards the bottom side, but when you look at Beyond Gaming's composition right now, all it really screams is that we're gonna leave bot lane alone. They're gonna chill a bit. We'll move up towards the top side and we'll punish the cannon, because that's why Jarvan is picked into cannon so frequently. No dashes on this champion, you have to move your speed, but if you do not have flash and you're caught in that cataclysm, you can maelstrom all you want, but it's still super easy to pick up a squishy cannon.
Crazy. I did say that he could be the focus. He's often caught out in the top lane, often overextends in the early game. It looks like Beyond Gaming have agreed with my assessment. And as we get on into the game, they'll be looking to catch out Crazy. Galatasaray, as you say, have that bot lane prio, but I do wonder how much we're going to see Mojito do on this Qiyana in the early game, because Qiyana is a champion that can go for those early ganks, but is also very happy just scaling up, getting, you know, level 6, level 11, getting that supreme display of talent, and then dominating team fights by just pushing people against the wall. It's
going to be interesting, because it also begs the question that, are we actually deciding to now be more team-oriented with our plays? Because if you have that bot lane priority, if you have Xerxing moving on around the map, able to get mid lane priority, you're able to put dives up towards the top side. You're able to go counter jungle together as a unit. And obviously, when you have a champion like Qiyana, skirmishing in the enemy jungle is your absolute best territory for a fight. So what I would love to see from Galatasaray is that when they get the priority, they try to invade camp respawn timers. They try to invade on blue buffs or red buffs when they finally have that level 6 to really benefit their composition with what they have here.
Let's get on to the Rift for the 6th game of the day. Galatasaray, the Turkish #1 seed, against Beyond Gaming, the 2nd seed, coming out from the PCS. Doggo, always a key focus for Beyond, is playing his Ezreal. He didn't win on this at all in summer. He was 2-0 on the pick. And so, sorry, 0-2.
I was going to say, that kind of contradicts each other.
0-2 on the pick, but we'll see if he's been practicing it in the couple of patches we've had since the end of the PCS playoffs.
And you were talking about earlier, about Crazy, about this forward potential. I think it's something that has been a curse and blessing from Galatasaray. It's the fact that he gets a lot of individual gold leads by himself, or by having this forward percentage, by pushing his enemy in. But it's also the curse that comes in when he's finally punished about this mistake. So I wonder now, Crazy, if he's going to be able to make that adaptation where it has been a weakness in the past, and it is going to be a weakness when you are against the Jarvan and Sensao. You heavily need to respect this, and if he doesn't, it might bite you in the back. But going up from where the junglers are starting, it's actually Husher that's starting up towards top side that can move down towards the bottom side, and it's Mojito who's moving up towards the top side.
As in keeping with Beyond's general playstyle, is focusing on getting Doggo ahead. But as you said, PK could look for some damage on Crazy early. You can set that cannon behind, and really the slicing maelstrom becomes nothing but a static shock as the game goes on. But for the moment, actually, Xerxing and Alive forced back here. Of course, Doggo and Kino were in the lane first because they didn't have to go help their jungler, so able to get the prio, get Doggo up towards that level 2, and then he has a little bit more safety in the lane, the ability to arcane shift away from that Bard stun.
And this is necessarily not a bad place to have your lane either, because you do have this double range. Whenever Kino steps up, that's where you can poke him down and have the safety off your tower. You also don't need to have bot lane priority right now, just due to the fact that your top lane, or your jungler rather, is up in the top lane. So no real reason just yet. It's something we can look back on later when the enemy blue buff finally starts to respawn, or we want some jungle skirmishes going into it.
Mojizo's actually skipped his entire top side apart from the Grom. He hasn't gone blue, hasn't gone wolves, hasn't taken his Krugs. He's only taken 3 camps so far. Level 3 though, and he's looking for a dive onto PK now. Flag and drag will be available. Question is, does PK expend anything trying to farm? There's the Q. Dragon Strike has been used, so there's no flag drag combo. Crazy could look for the stun underneath the tower. Here's Mojito catching the wave. TP coming in as well from Galatasaray. Counter TP, immediately burnt. They might continue to look for this. There's the root, and already PK has to try and flash away, but he's stunned up, locked down, and Galatasaray with a perfect execution of that dive. Now Mawam is in for a world of hurt underneath this tower. Crazy will die, but it's a double for the cannon.
But what a nice setup as well from Galatasaray. This is something that we didn't really see all too much in TCL. I'm actually really happy with what I just saw here. Mojito, as you talked about, skip camps, move up towards the top side, have Balulu crash it as well. He does lose some minion waves here, and actually Mawam is losing this minion wave as well. So all in all, super nice job from Galatasaray here in the early game that actually gets 2 kills on towards the cannon. Still has that TP, so he's going to be put in a really good spot if he wants to join the team later when he does get that slicing maelstrom.
Yeah, we talked about how it can feel when Kennen's behind, when Kennen's ahead, because of players like this, he can do so much work in a team fight.
It's also super good timing. Balulu had just recalled, so he's coming back to this dive with full HP, full mana. Marwan hasn't backed yet, so he's actually coming into a deficit with this one, at least in terms of resources as a mid laner. And the tower juggling we get here as well is super nice to see. Balulu is going to tank it up once again. Crazy, unfortunately, is going to get it afterwards, so he's not able to get out. But all in all, this is a big minion wave that you're losing. You're losing waves in the mid lane as well. Galatasaray putting the pace on this game very early, which is something I would have expected Beyond Gaming to do.
Galatasaray, though, so good when they do manage to get ahead. That's an 800 gold lead for Crazy in the top lane. Husha on his way up here, but Crazy just able to use the lightning rush to get himself out of any sort of danger, and you can see that gold lead is going to be monumental for Galatasaray. About 700, 800 gold across the board. Mid lane, there's an advantage for Balulu. Crazy has that 600 gold lead in the top lane as well. It becomes very difficult for Beyond to find those early plays because not only did they lose the kills, they also lost flash on their mid laner, flash on their top laner. Time for Husha to try and get some of these camps as well.
And this is something you can try and continue to expand on. You can see Balulu all the time just does a really good job at shoving in the wave, move into Fog of War, he recalls, enemy doesn't know where he is, you have to respect that, but all in all, he's actually just resetting for some extra items to get back into the lane, and you can see the difference. It's items here as well, you just have that extra AP from the Dark Seal, that little advantage into Maoan here, and as soon as you get that Realm Warp from the Rise, that's where I really want to see Galatasaray be proactive. And on Beyond Gaming, you want to keep that vision around the mid lane. You can already see the pink ward towards the bottom half of the map there. You want to know every time Balulu is moving, because if you don't, he's going to catch you by surprise on a dive.
See Husha trying to find Balulu in the mid lane. Realm Warp is available for the Swedish players. Galatasaray once again look up towards the top lane. Mojito was spotted on a ward. Balulu has a blast cone if he wants it. Husha coming in as well, but Husha is going to face check straight into the Rise. Oh, a nice win becomes lightning there. Spots out Balulu waiting in the bush. And Mojito and Balulu will have to team up. Balulu on the wrong side of this. Oriana could come across, but Mawan not yet level 6.
But we talk about playing the map as well, and you can see the supports. They were already moving for this one as well. They were anticipating a fight was going to break out. As soon as a fight doesn't, they're moving their way back towards the bottom lane once again. Actually, Xerxstein being a bit better, or faster rather, at getting down to this bot lane, so they should be getting some priority onto this one. But that's not necessarily a bad movement at all from Galatasaray. This is just what we need to see continuously from them again. And actually this time around, they themselves got some good vision up towards the top side. Now when supports are finally down towards the bottom side again, you just move up again, you keep this pressure going, and now you're recalling in the Fog of War, which just allows you to create pressure from the enemy laners that they have to respect.
You see Husha knows everyone's going out towards the top side, immediately decides to go for this dragon. Beyond actually traditionally more of a herald team. They want to keep the gold ticking over in the early game, and they do still get, 60% of all Drakes in their game, but this isn't usually their focus when it comes to early objectives.
No, it's really not, and it's the same for Galatasaray towards the Rift Herald themselves. Like, it's one of the slowest Rift Heralds there is, but this could be the game where that changes.
Definitely could. I mean, Beyond know that they have to play on the bottom side of the map more than usual because of how Balulu's been pathing. Doggo able to walk away here. Balulu has to flash with Kino and Husha on their way. Balulu had to respect the shockwave.
Yeah, it's really nice job with the tempo coming into that one, and now with Husha finally pathing up towards the top side, it will be buying BK some extra breathing room because you will have your jungle on the right side of the map at least to stay alive. And I wonder now if that means that Galatasaray finally want to invest their resources down to the bottom lane instead, because blue buff, it is respawning in 1 minute. We already talked about the supreme display of talent on the Kiana has just been achieved. So if you want to evade with bot lane priority, if that's something you want to fight for, now is the time to do it.
We'll see what Mojito decides to do. Usually relatively inactive in the early game here, out to a quick 2 assists towards that top side of the map. Of course, Doggo on this Ezreal will be very hard to lock down if you do look towards that bottom side of the map. Galatasaray will know that, will want to try and burn his Arcane Shift or his Flash early on. For the moment, haven't been able to get either of those abilities out.
It's the one thing to look forward to, at least if you're a BYG Gaming fan towards the mid game, is Doggo, because he outranges basically every one of them. Obviously, there is the bullet time, but you have the Arcane Shift to dodge out on that. So if you can put yourself in a position where the enemy can't get to you, well, realistically speaking, Doggo is the only one that's going to stay out of this range. Obviously, you can argue for the Orianna as well, but easier for the Ezreal with the Arcane Shifts and the Mystic Shots, of course.
Yeah, and if there's any player on Beyond that you want to be in a good position to stay safe and put damage down in the team fight, it's probably Doggo. You can see high damage a minute, leading in his lane in terms of CS, high gold at 15-minute mark as well. He's just so good at finding these advantages, finding these leads. His team does put a lot of time into getting him ahead. He actually has like 31% CS between the 15 and the 30-minute mark, but because of that investment, he is able to carry late-game team fights very often.
He definitely is, but it's also done on other champions. It's not from Ezreal that he gained these stats, and you can already see it now. Actually, just even with Alive, obviously these stats are from 15 minutes, but we have to take it back to Galatasaray, because Baluli on the rise, we talked about it in Champ Select, if you can't shut down the priority that he brings to you, they're going to be able to do so much in the early game. And historically speaking of the split, Galatasaray always had a really bad first 10 minutes of the game. This time around, they don't. They're looking stellar.
Perhaps able to stop any possibility of Beyond focusing the top lane with a top lane play of their own, and now stalling the game a little bit, getting farm, getting to these first completed items. Mythics on their way across the board, and PK has to be careful. There's the Root Supreme Despair talent into the Slicing Maelstrom, and PK doesn't have a moment to react. TP's coming in from Mauan, but you can see Balulu TPing in himself. Realm Warp's going to chase them down. Mauan does have the Shockwave, flashes away, pulls Balulu back, but where's the rest of the team? Husha is on his way. Rift Herald going down in the top lane as well as Husha comes in. Crescent Guard available. That Rift Herald should charge in and just take down this tower. Flash forward from Husha, will take one. He's looking for two as Balulu is able to walk away, and the Rift Herald charges into the turret.
Yeah, they get the kill and they do get the Rift Herald into the turret, so still all in all very much worth it from the side of Galatasaray. Zergsting up here as well with the bard as well should it be necessary, so you need to be careful. If you overstay, you're welcome here, but I think the play is going to be over from this one, and the resets will have to come through soon as well. There is 1 minute and 20 seconds on towards the Baron. Crazy, he held on to the TP, so now you have a top lane on Galatasaray that you can push out super far, and then you still have the TP flank with Crazy that he can join a fight with.
With Alive picking up the Kraken Slayer there as well, we are starting to see those first mythics. Gore Drinker for Mojito. Crazy expect to go towards the Hextech Rocket Belt on this cannon. 3-1 now, and there's the Rocket Belt complete.
But you also take a look around the vision right now. You can see the pink towards the bottom lane. The deep red wards right now towards this Drake is still in favor of Beyond, but if you want to fight this, you don't have the mythic items. Right now, there's no Gore Drinker on your own jungler. They're looking for Balulu though, no flash.
Balulu doesn't have flash, as you say. Temper Fate coming out as well. There's the Shockwave. Balulu trying to walk away with a double flash follow. A single flash follow there from PK. Crazy did TP, but he didn't have the Slicing Maelstrom, nor had a flash, so decided just to back away underneath the tower.
And that is super nice from Beyond here. That's how you kind of cheat this little disadvantage you were at. But still need to be careful if you get caught off guard by an individual member going into this one. It seems like they don't want to set up the Drake. And Balulu, he is back on the map in just 2 seconds. So it should still be Galatasaray that can start moving out of the map now. And just a delayed Drake rather than a Drake going over to Beyond Gaming.
The good thing for Beyond, though, is, of course, they got the TP out of Crazy there, so he's not going to be able to TP down to a Dragon if it happens. PK still has his. Doggo also has a TP on this Ezreal, something we don't see too commonly these days. Usually, Ezreals go for, a heal or a cleanse in that bottom lane, but here, knowing that he's relatively safe in the lane, he can just take that teleport to get around the map and get even more gold in his pockets.
The thing is, this time around, though, Crazy did expend his TP. So what Crazy has to do now, if he wants to join the fight, push in the top side, move down towards the Drake instead, and then let PK join the fight with his TP instead. You just mentioned Stoggo TP, well there you go, here he is, just coming back with his Divine Sunderer.
First item already complete on that Ezreal. A 2,500 gold lead though for Galatasaray. They do have the setup around this dragon, but it looks like they will retreat from it for the moment. Husha stepping into this bottom side river, trying to get himself some vision, teaming up with Mao1 and Kino here just around the corner. Now there is a TP wall behind Beyond, but no TPs for them to expend to actually utilize that extra bit of vision, an extra possibility of a flank position.
Well, you always have that realm wall. You can always just put the cannon into that one, put him behind the enemy team, and then let him get into the fight. You can see they've actually grouped up here, so no TPs are going to have to be expended. And Galatasaray, they're trying to clear out the bottom side vision. They're trying to make sure that there's a fog of war where Crazy can join a fight for, but he doesn't have flash, so it's going to be hard for him to get inside towards the back line of Beyond.
Yeah, no flash on Mojito, no flash on Crazy does make this a little bit more tricky. We'll see if Zergsting can put a good-tempered Fate down. Mojito in a flank position here, but is on a ward. Beyond actually look like they still might want to take this fight. They've already taken the dragon. They don't really have to take anything more. They will start to retreat towards where their own blue buff would lie. Galatasaray with the pressure in the mid lane, with the priority in that lane. Beyond having to take the long way round, but no plate will fall. True Shot Barrage comes out, clips the back of Zergsting, and they will just walk away. So Dragon taken there for Beyond. Galatasaray unable to find an avenue to approach.
Yeah, so this kill-heavy region we talked about, Medic, not really something we get to see right now, and I think a lot of that is once again the reason for Galatasaray just choking out their opponents with the priority that they get, and then they let Mojito run around into jungle, trying to get a jungle lead for himself. You can already see it on the Kiana, just taking away all of Hush's camp while they have the priority. They gained the mid lane priority by pushing it in, but Lulu has it towards the top side, so realistically speaking, there's not really a response you can get from Beyond.
For the moment, though, Beyond just seem to be happy putting up some defensive walls and just catching waves as they are pushed in towards them. They're not really losing too much. You know, a camp here or there isn't the biggest cut, the biggest wound that you have to stem the bleeding from. Instead, they are willing to give up, you know, a red buff as long as they're not losing towers, as long as they're not losing too much CS on the rest of the map, and as long as they can get Doggo some of this farm so he can get towards, you know, second, third item on the Ezreal.
Yeah, definitely. That's what they're playing for. But, you know, one camp here and there, it's becoming more than that, really, here at this point. It's a level advantage now on Mojito. Once he reaches level 11 on the Kiana, that's where it starts getting really dangerous.
I think Crazy was just looking for the slicing maelstrom there. Does have the flash to get away. Mao1's on the chase. True Shot Barrage won't catch him out, and with the Hextech Rocket Bear, who will be able to get away. TP there from Mao1, perhaps a little bit too eager to try and get down towards the bottom lane. Crazy didn't really have any backup, and was just going for a bit of a chunking maelstrom more than anything else.
Yeah, and you know, it's not really the Beyond I'm used to seeing here as well. This is usually a team that's more well composed, has a lot of good comeback mechanics. In some of their victory against PSG, they won them while still being at a deficit as well. They're usually a team that does really well at playing two side lanes or playing towards the setup with their CC. Right now, we're just not seeing that. Right now, the only leverage you're really waiting for is that scaling towards the late game. It's waiting for your Orianna to get those items. It's waiting for Doggo to be in a comfortable position. And I don't know if we can actually see the gold, but I'm pretty sure Doggo has been sitting on this Divine Sunder and tier for a very long time, so he must be hoarding a lot of gold right now before he wants to back for these items.
I expect we'll see him go back and get that next item soon. Of course, things like the Manamune, the Seroda's Grudge, very strong on the Ezreal. There we are. Parts of it, Caulfields and a longsword picked up for Doggo. And I do want to talk a little bit about how Galatasaray tend to play it from this position, because when they get towards the mid-game, like through towards, you know, 15, 20 minutes with a lead, they are very good at closing it out. In leads, they have only lost one game across the course of summer. If they had a lead at 10, they were 12 wins, 1 loss, 15, 17 wins, 1 loss, lead at 20, 19 wins, 1 loss. Right now, we're sitting at that with lead at 15 mark, but if we get up to 20, it becomes even more favorable for Galatasaray.
Statistically speaking, yes, but this is where I think the stylistics of the two teams starts becoming interesting as well, because what we've seen from Beyond in the past is that they do have comeback mechanics, and what we've seen from Galatasaray is that they're very slow at closing out these games. So despite having such a good record with a gold lead, the average game time for them in wins is 33 minutes. And that's quite slow for this meta that has been very proactive. Remember, this is back from patch 11, 15, 16 as well, with the explosive junglers as well. So it's going to be curious to see how well they can solidify this lead and keep it while still, you know, being a bit slow as we've seen them in the past, or see if they're actually going to amp up the pace a bit.
As you see, Beyond able to store this out pretty well. Mauan took the bot lane tier 1, now looking for the top lane tier 1. Gold still about 2,000 in advantage for Galatasaray. They definitely still have the lead in this game right now, but you have to expect they will want to look for a fight. And the issue for Galatasaray, and the issue a lot of teams face at this point, is they've invested a lot into getting their cannon ahead, into getting this team fight threat ahead. However, because of that, they gave up early dragons. And so...
Exactly. Yes,
take it away. I'm not going to take your point.
No,
go on. Do it.
I was like, yes, he's right. He's spitting facts, and you are, because I was just about to mention it. Yes, there's a Drake coming up in just a second, and yes, you could threaten a team fight around it. But as Beyond Gaming, why should you care? It's just as you said, right? They already have these two potential, so is ages away, and realistically speaking, it's going to come down to a Baron instead then.
It's definitely what we expected. We are 1.5 minutes before that Baron does spawn. I don't think either team will really want to take it immediately, but actually it looks like Beyond may be looking to set up for the soul themselves. Perhaps think they're in a strong position. Double Gore Drinker, Ludens, and Divine Sunder complete. Mojito's on a ward here. Will Beyond look for the chase? One of their issues, of course, is the speed at which Galatasaray can collapse. Manamune now complete on Doggo, but the Realm Warp from Balulu can get to any fight in any position relatively quickly. It's not entirely global, but if you get about a quarter of the way up the river, you'll be able to get towards mid lane. Beyond going to start up the Dragon here. Mojito still on a ward. Because he has the Rift held, he can't actually sweep right now. Now he's going to step forward, but he's still on a ward. The Dragon's almost gone. Mojito going in. There's the Temper Fate onto the Dragon.
Oh!
Supreme display of talent onto the backline. Here comes Crazy. Blue team steals the Cloud Drake as the fight really begins. Galatasaray take it. They take the fight. They clean it up. Husha forced down towards the bottom side of it. Mojito will chase him down. It's a 3-for-2 in favor of Galatasaray, and they took the Dragon.
And that is the team fighting we talk about with Galatasaray as well. The fact that Mojito, despite being on Vision, is able to find that supreme display of talent with the slicing Maelstrom to follow up. We still see some light on Doggo, but in the end, Galatasaray solidified that fight with stealing the Drake by cleaning up the fight, and now Rift Herald, as you mentioned earlier, pushing in the mid lane.
Charging forward with that Rift Herald, won't be able to take down the tier 1, but a 3,000 gold lead now for Galatasaray, and you can see just how strong they can be in some of these team fights. It is where their bread and butter comes from, mechanically outplaying their opponents in team fights. You saw there, Mojito was on Vision the entire time he walked around in this Axe Effect replay.
Yeah, but a Cirque's thing as well, you know, so crucial to get away this Drake, where it's super easy from there, Mojito, to steal up the Drake afterwards. And you know what? We were questioning even starting this. We were saying this is fine, but Beyond, because they don't have to start up this Drake. They don't have to play into the lead that Galatasaray is having right now. But you know what? They decided to do it anyway.
And they paid for their hubris, thinking that they could take the fight. Doggo did survive, but just didn't have the time to put the damage down because, of course, you have Supreme Display of Talent, you have the Slicing Maelstrom. All your thoughts are on escaping rather than putting the DPS down in a fight.
And all in all my question marks as well about Galatasaray kind of just vanished as well, because they had the better setup. Bot lane was pushed out by Relulu. Mojito, despite being spotted on Vision, came from a flank where the others weren't. And it's the fact that they closed around Beyond Gaming and were able to take them on from multiple fronts with their AoE ultimates. If you're not able to stop this as Beyond, if you're not able to front to back with the Orianna and Ezreal, you're just going to get collapsed on, as we just saw.
You see Mojito continuing to try and find pockets of vision where he can catch people out. For the moment, no one really working on this side of the map. Maybe he's just going to look towards catching out Mauan. Shockwave comes out. Balulu will have the Rune Prison available. Spellflux doing a little bit of work there onto Mauan, who continues to dance in and out of this bush. Husha on his way. Mojito now on the wrong side of the rift, but with no Shockwave available for Mauan, should be pretty easy for Mojito to escape.
And all in all, we are just at a moment here where you're kind of just looking once again to steal away the camps when they respawn, to try and fight around that rather than just having to start up the Baron, because right now on the side of Galatasaray, you don't have a tank. You don't have someone that can just start it up and then bait your opponents to come into it. So if you get an extended fight around Baron, it may well go wrong from you. And that's why it's so slow. That's why this setup needs to be right. But TP coming in now from the side of Orianna.
PK going in for the fight. Crazy there with the slicing maelstrom as well. But the Cataclysm will lock Crazy in spot. This is what they wanted to do in the early game, but they just can't get the damage down. But Lulu once again comes to save his teammate. Tempered Fate goes wide, but the rest of Galatasaray are here. Mojito takes one. Mauan, you pop the stopwatch, but you're going to get popped immediately afterwards. Crazy gets his 5th kill of the game, and the chase is on. Realm War behind them. Husha diving in, looking for a live. Balulu going in on towards the backline, trying to catch out Doggo. Mojito there with the stopwatch. You can see Balulu just surviving, but Doggo takes the double. And perhaps a little bit too greedy there from Galatasaray.
Yeah, going forward right into Doggo. The one member who's performing on Beyond, and they might not be done yet. Crazy's still very low, doesn't have that slicing maelstrom. So let's see, there he goes. But it looks like they're just going to be able to get away from this one with the Bard Portal as well. Doggo not able to fully utilize his pressure on the Ezreal just yet. They're respecting it on Galatasaray. But once again, you have to keep the threat of Doggo in the back of your mind every time, because we see it in these fights. He still does so much damage, and he's able to excel his pressure in it.
You have to be aware of where Doggo is at every single moment. Crazy caught out a little bit at the start, but he manages to survive for a long, long time.
This is usually one of the things that Beyond does so well when they are behind, is the fact that they collapse on one member with 2 of their solo laners. But they just don't have the pressure to actually nuke him down immediately. They didn't even have the shockwave, so while the channel does come out with, well, the little siesta hat there for yourself, not much really came out of it. And it's the over-chase from Galatasaray that really becomes their undoing. As soon as they dive into Doggo, they just don't have what it takes to take him down, while Kino is by his side on the Braum.
And you can see how Beyond can win out in some of these fights. The question is, will Galatasaray give them another opportunity like that? Because that was the Turkish #1 seed just going a little bit too deep. They didn't have to do that. They could have just waited at the backline and be like, okay, Doggo, you can walk away. We've got you. But now he has Frozen Heart finished. He's got the Manamune fully stacked up. He's got Divine Sundra. He's 3-0 on this Ezreal. And he becomes a lot trickier to lock down as the game goes on.
Obviously, having that Frozen Heart does give you a bit of extra AD with the Manamune as well, but there's still the AP threat you need to be worried of. Crazy diving into the backline, Balulu obviously on the rise. You need to have perfect positioning to make sure you won't get caught off by these types of damage.
Well, Galatasaray going to give up their mid-tier 1. Mojito waiting in the wings once again. I've been wondering if we've been watching Solid Snake this game as he continues to look for these flanks, continues to hide in the darkness. It's Galatasaray, not Infinity Esports, playing against Beyond. 2,000 gold is still for Galatasaray as we set up around this dragon.
Yeah, but this setup right now still requires Beyond to start up the Drake first, and they're starting it out without checking that back first. They may... Oh, they have the pink ward behind them now, but Mojito, he can wait around for the perfect moment. Just doesn't seem like it's coming.
Xerxing still has a Tempered Fate. Are they going to use it? They use it a little bit too late, but they still get Mauan. Doggo's going to jump away. Mojito trying to get in, but PK's going to lock him up, and Beyond look like they just want to back away from this fight. It was a perfect position, but Galatasaray just couldn't get close enough.
Yeah, that was the perfect troll call from the side of Mojito if he could get in there with the Kiana, but obviously didn't have the means to close that ground. So now Beyond Gaming on Soul Point. It is still Cloud Soul, so it's not the most valuable one you could get in terms of trying to come back, but obviously you take whatever extra resource you can get in the game.
I don't mind a Cloud. Oh, Ezreal jumps in. Mojito could just look for the supreme display of balance as he tries to catch out the Ezreal, but he just doesn't have the damage. The Frozen Heart working overtime, but Crazy flashes in. And in the end, it is Xerxing who takes the kill. All of Beyond tried to dive in and save their AD carry. And Crazy may have gone a little bit too deep here for Galatasaray as the chase is on. Cataclysm coming out as well. No shockwave available, but the bullet time will rip them to pieces. Mojito takes a great bit of positioning there from the Galatasaray jungler.
And with this, they should be able to try and threaten the Baron while the jungler is still alive from Beyond with Husha here. They have 4 members, but Lulu still loads of mana on the rise, and he can take down this Baron really fast. So let's see what Beyond Gaming, do they want to threat a possible contest, or are they just forfeiting this one?
Waiting perhaps for the shockwave to be back up. It is now for Mauan.
They're going to be too slow.
Husha going in, you say they'll be too slow, I agree. Passage will be used. It's a magical journey for Galatasaray here to Worlds, and a magical journey as they take the Baron, and we'll see what they can do with this Red Bull Baron power play.
Reset will start to come out now, and speaking of resets, let's have a replay coming in here. It's just super... Shut up. It's just super nice from Mojito with the flank that he finds himself in. And you know what? It's almost deja vu. Last time there was a Drake objective, Mojito went into the enemy red buff as well. It's kind of just like their bread and butter by finding these flanks with their priority, rather. And you gotta give credit, once again, to the team fight potential we see of Galatasaray, because once the Jarvan locks too far forward, we see the Misfortune just making sure that he's locked in with them and not the opposite way around.
That's what Galatasaray do so well. Their team fights are incredibly strong. With the Baron now, they can continue to push in, but you can see in the TCL, they had an almost 2 KD in team fights. That means for every time they died, they got 2 kills, which is really, really impressive. Like, I can't stress, most teams, you know, about 1.4, 1.3. A 1.89 is incredibly impressive, and they continue to show us here how they can play these team fights to near perfection.
But now we also come to the point where we saw some of the weaknesses of Galatasaray, and that was closing out the game once they have these leads. So while the record, as you avoid display, still is very impressive, they have seen to be very slow about it, even sometimes having to find that second Baron to really solidify the lead. And once again, Soul Point, not one of their win conditions. The Elder Drake, it's going to be some time before that's part of it as well. So with this Baron buff, what are they deciding to do? How do they open up the map? Right now you can see on the posturing that they've been gone in for 1-3-1 positioning, but they're very slow about it. They haven't really threatened these tier 2 turrets yet.
And trying to get those side lanes pushed in, as you say. Both Balulu and Crazy are kind of aligned in their positioning in the lane. Balulu is actually going to back, does have TP if he wants to rejoin any fight that might happen. But as you say, Galatasaray really not pushing the tempo too much. Baron will expire in about 50 seconds time, and all in all, they've gained an extra 300 gold or so on top of the amount that you get for taking the Baron.
Yeah, so not too much just yet, but they did just push out the top side. Now they're having Balulu in the mid lane, and they're going to play 2 lanes instead of 1, which should make it easier to collapse. But Kino on the Braum does an exceptional job at mitigating the damage that will come through on that tower.
And one more wave, really, you have to think will push in here. 30 seconds left before that Baron times out. 2,000 gold taking it from it completely. Balulu pushing in the mid. Bot wave continues to be pressured, but Mojito has decided instead it's time to take away some of these jungle camps. And with their final wave arriving in the mid lane, you have to think that Galatasaray won't take any more towers, at least from this Baron.
And there we have it once again. They're doing such a good job at getting to this point, Galatasaray. But they're always so slow about it when they finally have it, so couldn't even threaten the tier 2 turrets there. They tried to set it up with the top lane push in to then play the 2 lanes. It's just too late. But on the other half, though, you do have 20 seconds onto the Cloud Drake to respawn, and we have seen Beyond Gaming so far, it seems like they just want to contest every Drake, even though they don't have to. You can still wait for the level 16 on the Orianna. You can still wait for the Death Cap or Seraph's Embrace to come through as well from the Orianna, so you have the time on your side. There's no need to stress it. The only objective you need to be careful of, as Beyond right now, it is that Baron that's spawning in 2 minutes.
It looks like Beyond have decided third time is not the charm for them. They will give up this Cloud Dragon. They're not going to allow Mojito to get that flank off once again. And for the moment, they will just continue to let this game delay. There's the Seraphs that you were talking about, upgraded already to the Archangels for Marwan. And across the board, 3 items finished on Doggo as well. He's building up towards that 4th. Cyrilda's probably on its way. It'll be a lot of work, a lot of damage from that Ezreal if he can get it off in these team fights.
But here they do it again. It's kind of the Beyond Gaming special with having 2 solo laners in the same lane. They're trying to bait their opponent in by only showing one guy, and specifically Jarvan in this case, who's 1 in 5, to try and ego your opponent to just say, oh, I could just solo kill him. And then the Orianna is going to be waiting in the fray, in the fog of war. But they're not biting. They're taking it very slow and methodical. So this time around, the late game stylistic of Galatasaray, with them being very careful, it's actually paying its dividends against the comebacks mechanics we usually see in Beyond.
Would be a big win here for Galatasaray. Lots of people saying Beyond were one of the top teams in this group. We're expected to get one of those top couple of spots, and if Galatasaray can take this early win, remember, only 4 games for these teams in this round robin. You play each team once. Getting those early wins means that you perhaps will avoid LNG and Hanwha Life coming into the knockout stage. They're in prime position to do it. With the Baron up in a minute's time, Galatasaray continue just to advance their ward line. You can see There's a couple of deep wards from the side of Beyond, but look at where Zergsting is right now. Look at where he's putting this vision. Beyond are pegged back into their base.
Also, with the Summoner spell still being up and available from the side of Galatasaray, you don't really mind a TP flank from a Jarvan to come in. He's only level 14. He's not really tanky. Doesn't even have his second item yet in a 32-minute game, by the way. So he's super weak. So that threat of a flank, it isn't really there. And the flanking Orianna, well, let's not talk about it. It might as well be suicide if he decides to do that.
Definitely not the deadliest, but we'll see if Beyond are able to find any way back into this game, because right now Galatasaray 6,000, well, 5,500 gold ahead. Alive has finished 3 items. Balulu's in a very strong spot on this rise as well, perhaps. Beyond could go aggressive. Mojito forced back just a tad, but Beyond really not able to find too much. They're setting up around this Baron because they know they want a little bit of deep vision before it spawns at least, so they could look for one of those flank positions. Right now, they're hoping that someone from Galatasaray oversteps, but Galatasaray have no reason to go into this quadrant of the map. They know that the Baron isn't being done. Crazy's chunked out a ton there by Doggo.
And that was just a little taste of what Doggo might do to you in these team fights. Luckily, from the side of Galatasaray, there's no blue buffs, so Doggo won't be able to just fire Mystic Shot after Mystic Shot after Mystic Shot. But he does have a ton of mana on him. And I wonder, with the resets coming through, are they just going to thread it? Yes, they are. It might come down to this Baron started up by Beyond themselves.
But Crazy has such a good TP ward here as he's going to come in. Beyond may want to turn this before Crazy can join the fight. Kino stepping forward, who should there as well. There's the Cataclysm onto Alive. But Mojito goes in with a supreme display of talent. Triple stopwatch popped. Who's going in? Crazy on the backline. That slicing Maelstrom was so beautiful. Sublime team fight from Galatasaray. A clean ace from the TCL.
Despite Zergsting ulting away the targets that was about to be supreme display of talent, Crazy still finds a crazy position to come in with the slicing Maelstrom. And that is just the strength that we have been talking about in Galatasaray. It may be slow, but it's finding these leads in the individuals and then find that final fight towards the late game where you just outplay your opponents with your lead. This is the style of Galatasaray, and they make it work with what I'm quite comfortable to say is an upset against Beyond here.
That was a beautiful final team fight from Galatasaray. The TCL #1 seed will take their first game here at Worlds, and perhaps are starting a bit of redemption after Istanbul Wildcats had a disappointing performance at MSI. Beating out the PCS #2 seed is a strong start for Galatasaray.
Especially because a lot of analysts and people in general coming into this one set Beyond Gaming, you know, went toe-to-toe with PSG in the PZS, or PCS rather. So them coming in with a statement game like this and just cleaning away their opposition, that puts them in a really good spot towards that redemption from MSI that you were slightly talking about.
It definitely does. Beyond on the other side, PK got focused in the early game. Galatasaray with some great tower dives really put him behind, but we'll see if they can bounce back later on. Now, at MSI, we saw some back and forth matches between Cloud9 and Dead Nation Focus Me, and today we get the rematch in Group B. As we go into a break, let's take a look back in Sounds of the Game, presented by Bose.